As well as the standard fair use policy, this video is protected under the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1787.
Moors are awake. We are taking our place on this planet.
My nationality is Moorish.
Today's video features a Moor that is part of the Moorish Science Temple, Taharka Bey, and he is on another guy's YouTube channel by the name of JT. It's called Pocket Watching with JT, and they are here to discuss a few interesting things. So I'll be making some comments when necessary. Now, Taharka Bey, he's a Grand Sheikh of a Moorish Science Temple, and he tries to distance himself and other temple Moors from these Moorish sovereign citizens, and he likes to discredit them by saying that they're not Moors because they're not in the temple, when Noble Jew Ali said that one day Moors are going to have to step outside of the temple. So that's what these Moorish sovereign citizens have been doing. They've been stepping outside of the temple, but I feel that it's disingenuous to try and say that these sovereign Moors aren't Moors because they're not in the temple, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. Their prophet is still Noble Jew Ali. Noble Jew Ali's movement was a religious movement. What these people have been doing, that's in their regular life, that's outside of the religious aspect of it. So it doesn't say that just because they're doing all of this sovereign citizen nonsense that they don't practice the quote-unquote Moorish faith of Islamism. So I don't like the fact that he tries to discredit the sovereign citizen Moors. Nobody. All of you guys are Moors. You all wear fez hats. Your prophet is Noble Jew Ali. That's it. You can't separate yourself from these people. But let's get into the clip.
I have stories that goes with these scenarios that people see on the internet. A lot of times people buy into this stuff because they don't have the experience, and they don't have people who have suffered losses from these experiences. We here in Baltimore, building a temple probably about 5 years ago in Walbrook Junction. Brother walks to the door. Big brother too, walks to the door. Man, I don't know what's up with y'all Moors, man, but I got my my status corrected, and now I'm about to lose my truck. I'm like, what are you talking about, brother? No, man, this the temple, and y'all be selling this BS. I'm like, bro, hold on. What are you talking about? I said, calm down. Tell me what you're talking about. Long story short, the brother had bought into this idea of the right to travel. He had owned his own tractor trailer, He was an independent driver, but he got into this concept of a right to travel, and he felt as though that he needed his driver's license, his CDL, only when he was driving his tractor trailer. Now, when he was driving his car, he didn't need that. All he needed was his right to travel documentation, and he would be fine. Well, that didn't work out too well. The police pulled him over quite a few times and actually took his car from him and suspended his license, racked up a bunch of tickets. Now he can't drive his truck to take care of his family. He comes to the temple. He's mad at me, He wants to go and find the guy that sold him this. And I'm not going to say the guy's name on the internet. I'm like, nah, bro, you're going to have to chalk that up. I walked the brother through. This is my friend today. I walked the brother through because he was mad. He had a new baby on the way. Right. Yeah. He had a new family. He was furious. I walked him through. I said, brother, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to work step by step, reestablish yourself, get your license back, and you're going to have to get back to work. You're going to have to chalk this one up. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, he did just that. And he was able to rebuild, got his truck on the road, got some box trucks, and he threw that stuff to the trash can. And now he's moved on. But the whole thing in the nutshell is that he brought into the concept that he was driving commercially with his truck, and he was traveling with his car. But he had a new baby on the way. He had a new wife, and he almost threw it all away because of that. And he wanted to go and look for the guy that actually taught him that from the internet and sold him the piece of paper that he thought that he could show to the police and it'd be legitimate.
So what Taharka Bey just explained is that someone bought one of them right to travel cards from a sovereign citizen Moorish group and then got in trouble, right? First and foremost, whoever that person was is a complete idiot, because you took the steps that it takes to get a CDL. Now, anyone that has a CDL knows that before you get a CDL, you have to have a regular driver's license first, and then you move up to get a CDL. So for you now to read a bunch of garbage on the internet and think that you only need a CDL when you're driving for commerce, and then you don't need a regular driver's license when you're driving your personal car, you're just an idiot, because you had a regular driver's license before you even got the CDL. So why weren't you driving without a driver's license from the very jump? This is what I'm saying. These people that are falling into this trap are people that are not intelligent. It literally makes no sense. Now, the reason Taharka Bey is telling this story is because, once again, he's trying to distance himself from the sovereign citizen Moors. But when it's all said and done, you can't distance yourself from them just because you don't believe in what they believe, because all of the stuff that they believe in is a belief. None of it is true. So just because you don't believe in the extra stuff that they believe doesn't mean that they're not Moors. You all are Moors. You all wear the fez hats. Your prophet is Noble Jew Ali. So I get what you're trying to do, but you can't distance yourself from the sovereign citizen Moors. It's impossible.
Be legitimate.
Question I wanted to ask the brother, because when I hear Moors, I think about, the North African Moors that invaded Europe and, conquered Europe for I think it was 700 years or something like that. Is that the same Moors that, you associate yourself with? And my second question is, why everybody had the last name Bey? I don't understand it.
So much.
I got you. So the concept of being a Moorish American is no different than the concept of one that's being an Italian American, being a Nigerian American, or being a Polish American or Kenyan American.
Now, what Taharka Bey is about to attempt to do here is answer a question, but he's going to answer the question wrong, because he already started off wrong. He's saying the concept is like an Italian American. The difference between Moorish Americans and Italian Americans is Italian Americans know that they're actually from Italy, or that their forefathers are actually from Italy. You Moorish Americans want to trace yourself back to Morocco, but you don't have any people over there to tie yourself to. You don't know no one over there. You don't speak the language. You have never even been over there. Your mother's never been there. Your grandmother's never been there. Your great-grandmother. You have no descendants in Morocco. So it is not the same concept. So what he's about to do is answer the question completely wrong. And that's what makes all of these Moorish sovereign citizens complete idiots, because they try and justify why they're this and why they're that, when it's all wrong. It's all a belief. And that's why, whether you're a Moorish American from the temple or a sovereign citizen Moorish American, they all believe the same garbage, And that's why they're all one and the same. Another thing I must add is that these Moorish sovereign citizens and temple Moors, they're operating from a standpoint of belief. Beliefs cannot be proven. Now, for the example that he tried to use, saying it's no different. Moorish Americans are no different from an Italian Americans. The difference is an Italian American, they're not believing that they're Italian Americans. They know for 100% fact that they are Italian Americans. They can go over to Italy and trace their bloodline. They probably still even have family that live in Italy to this day. Moorish Americans cannot do that. They cannot go to Morocco and find anybody that they are connected to because their ancestors came here through the transatlantic slave trade. So they truly do not know who they are tied to. African Americans, black people in America that are ethnically African Americans are the only people on planet Earth who look to find their identities in books. We got African Americans that look to the Bible and say, hey, we're Hebrew Israelites. We got African Americans who read books about the Moors that invaded Spain and say, hey, I'm a Moor. We have African Americans who follow fools like Dane Calloway and say, hey, you know what? I'm a Native American. African Americans are the only people on planet Earth who look to find their identities in books, and that is because they are disconnected from their ancestors because of the transatlantic slave trade. They truly do not know who they are. Other people on this that are in this country, they don't have to do that. Using his example, an Italian American, they don't have to believe that they have descendants in Italy. They can go to Italy. They still have uncles and grandparents that are there. So they are Italian Americans. Now, as far as these Moorish sovereign citizens and temple Moors believing that they are Moorish Americans and they're descendants of the ancient Moabites and all of this other garbage, first and foremost, the people that are in Morocco, they are Moroccans. They aren't Moorish anything. So a true person that has family or was born in Morocco, they would be a Moroccan American, not a Moorish American. So it just shows you that these Moorish Americans, whether temple Moors or sovereign citizen Moors, their whole ideology is based off of beliefs, and that's fine. But the problem is that when they speak as if their beliefs are facts when they're not. Your beliefs are just your beliefs. You cannot prove anything that you say or believe. But I'll let him carry on.
It's one who is descended from the Moors of Northwest Africa, or descended from Moroccans, not Morocco, Moroccans, and born in America. It's a nationality. So it's the descent nature, not the direct connection. So it's like when the Moors of the Moorish national concept say that they're waving a Moroccan flag. Somebody in the chat says he got a Moroccan flag up there. That's not a Moroccan flag. The Moors, the dark-skinned Moors of North Africa, flew that flag before the pale-skinned Moroccans that are mixed with the French and mixed with the Spanish ever even thought about adopting that flag.
So he just said that the dark-skinned Moors flew that flag before the light-skinned Arabis mixed with the French Moors or Moroccans flew that flag, which is 100% wrong. My thing is this: If what you're saying is right, Taharka, why don't you give us a source where we can read what you just said? But I'm sure you can't, because there would be no source that will corroborate what you just said unless it's a source from a Bey or an L. It's not going to be a source, a scholarly source, because because what you just said is wrong. Now, you guys, that is your problem. You guys love to make up history, and then you believe it, and then you spew it, and you sound ignorant. That flag was never flown by no dark-skinned Moors. Now, if it was flown by dark-skinned Moors, please give me a source where I can read that. And do not give me a Moorish source, because Moorish sources don't count. Of course, there might be a Moorish person with Bey or L on the end of their names that's going to put that in the book. But I bet if it is in one of their books, they won't have a source to where they got it from. You know why? Because they made it up. That is not real. That is not real history. What you just said is 100% incorrect. Now, any scholarly source that you pull up is going to say that that flag was adopted in 1915. Point blank, period. Now, if you go to a Moorish source from someone who has a Bey or an L at the end of their name, they'll have some other gibberish written, but you know what they won't have? They won't have a source from where they got that information, because they made the information up. That flag was flown starting in 1915. It was not, have nothing to do with no dark-skinned Moors prior to that. So the people in the chat that said what they said to you are right. You do have a Moroccan flag in your background, because you are a confused individual. Let's take a look at where Taharka Bey learned this false information from. Now, Taharka Bey got that wrong information directly from his prophet. It comes from the Quran, Questions for Moorish Americans. Now, let's take a look at question number 19. What kind of flag is the Moorish? Question mark. And the answer is, it is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star at the center. Hence, the Moroccan flag. Now let's go to question number 21. How old is our flag? And the answer from Noble Drew Ali is, it's over 10,000 years old. And that is completely wrong. Now, it's mind-boggling to me that these Moorish Americans have a prophet that put out information that is wrong. It's odd to me. How does your prophet put out incorrect information? This is very sad. You know what? Let's see what the traveling Moor, Sabir Bey, has to say about the Moorish flag.
Moorish flag is over 50,000 years old. Get the hell out of here. What Moorish flag? Ain't no such thing as no Moorish flag. It's no such thing as a Moorish flag. You can share it to whoever the hell you need to share it with. There is no such thing as a Moorish flag. Period. I was in France talking to 3 Moroccan brothers. 3 Moroccan brothers, and they pulled this one out. They said, this is the flag before the colonization. Before the colonization flag, that was the one. Now, unless these Moors went over to Morocco and went to all these places I went to, I don't listen to nothing that they say. Nothing that they're talking about. Until they do a video and prove to me step by step and go to everywhere I went, then I will probably say, okay, I don't care what Noble Drew Ali said. You better go do your research. Y'all better stop following people, man. Y'all Moors better stop following people. I'm going to keep it funky. You better study when that flag was around. Do some research. But Noble Drew Ali said, see how they like to shift stuff? Well, Noble Drew Ali said, this is the oldest Moorish flag. The oldest Moorish flag is this. I'm going to ask y'all, have y'all ever saw this before in your life? This is what the brother pulled up and showed me. He said, this is the original Moroccan flag. This. Let me use common sense. Let's go. And I'm going to piss some Moors off, and I'm meant to do that. If that flag is over 10,000 years old, shouldn't you be able to go to the Washington archives and go see that motherfreaker? Shouldn't you be able to go have a tour down that? I would. I don't care what Noble Drew said.
So it's abundantly clear that Sabir Bey knows that the Moorish flag is not over 10,000 years old. Now, another thing that is important to note here is that these people, these Moorish Americans, they claim to not be black or African American, right? But when you start calling yourselves Moorish Americans, that proves that you are, in fact, black and an African American, because only black and African American people here in America call themselves Moorish Americans, because they are confused, because they don't know their true history. They don't know where their ancestors are truly from. They don't know what part of Africa. So they read some stuff in a book, they liked it, and they adopted that identity. Only blacks and African Americans in America find their identity in books. Other people throughout the world, they know who they are. They have their grandparents and their great-grandparents. They have their oral traditions of who they are. They are still in the countries that they say they're from. But no, not us here in America, because we were brought here through the transatlantic slave trade. So we truly don't know what part of Africa our forefathers are from. So some of us that are seeking for an identity, we look into books. And these Moorish people, they read about the Moors that invaded Spain in 711. So they liked that. They adopted that identity and claimed it as their own. So once again, saying that you're a Moorish American actually proves that you are in fact black and an African American. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. Stop being ashamed of who you truly are. You do not know who your forefathers are. So to just randomly pick a spot in Africa and say, yeah, this is where my forefathers are from, it doesn't quite work that way. You don't have any ancestors in Morocco. You've never even been there. So stop it with this nonsense. You guys make yourselves look ridiculous. Now, what you see here on the screen is the definition of Moor. Now, let's read it. Moor, a Muslim of mixed Berber and Arab people inhabiting North Africa, a member of this group that invaded Spain in the 8th century AD and occupied it until 1492. Now, Moorish Americans, I have a question to ask you, because you guys love using dictionaries. So when we see this definition right here, how does this definition apply to you? How? First and foremost, you're not the Muslim that this definition is referring to. You're not a Berber and you're not an Arab, and you don't inhabit North Africa. You guys have never even left the United States. You guys won't even get a driver's license, let alone a passport, to even leave the country to go to North Africa. So you can't inhabit a place that you've never been. So when we see this word Moor, it is not referring to you guys, Moorish Americans. Now, I'm not trying to make the argument that Moors weren't black people, because they were. They were black Moors. The thing is, Moors were not only blacks. As we can see, they were Arab Moors. They were Berber Moors. So, as I stated, my argument isn't that Moorish Americans aren't Moors because Moors weren't black. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, based on the definition, a Moor is somebody who inhabited North Africa. Now, we're going to look at the word inhabit, because the dictionary defines these words. They put words there for a reason. So let's look at what inhabit means, just in case you guys are confused. Inhabit, to live or dwell in a place as people or animals. Now, you guys don't live in North Africa. So once again, when we see this word Moor in dictionaries, it is not referring to you, Moorish Americans. What was that, Sabir Bey? You want to share something else with us?
Bluff. Yes, I am sitting in Spain. I just had to turn around and walk in a little alley to do this video because cut me off. And on top of this, let me explain this to y'all. They don't call themselves Moors, people in Morocco. I talked to a brother last night about this.
Moorish Americans, did you just hear what Sabir Bey said? Now, what he just said is very important. That video he's filming, he is overseas. He was in Spain in an alley, and he had just come from Morocco. As we know, Morocco and Spain are very close to each other. So he was in Morocco the prior day, and then the video he was filming, he was in Spain. He just let you guys know that they do not call themselves Moors in Morocco. Now, this is very, very pertinent information, because you guys, Moorish Americans, you claim that you are descendants from Morocco. Yet the people over there do not call themselves Moors. And I'm glad Sabir Bey was man enough to put that information out there to you guys. So I hope you guys hear that. You guys are confused individuals. They do not call themselves Moors in Morocco. That is not a thing.
And on top of this, let me explain this to y'all. They don't call themselves Moors, people in Morocco. I talked to a brother last night about this.
That flag, that's the flag of our forefathers. That's the Moorish flag before the Morocco became a state, if I'm not mistaken, in 1950s. So that's a whole nother concept. So yeah, we say descended from. You know, we come from that North African. If you study the slave trade, you'll find out that people come from North Africa by the way of the slave trade, and those who were already here is also bloodline connected to the northwestern, southwestern shores of Africa.
This man just said that people come from North Africa by way of the slave trade. Sorry, sir, but no academic sources agree with what you're saying. The scholarly consensus is that the slaves that were brought here to the Americas came from West Africa, not North Africa. Now, if you want me to believe what you're saying, then give me a source where I can read that. And once again, we will not accept Moorish sources. We will only accept scholarly, academic, peer-reviewed sources. Now, I can't believe this man just literally said that African Americans came here from via the slave trade through North Africa. These sovereign citizens, Moorish sovereign citizens and Temple Moors, want to be North African so bad that they'll get on the internet and just spout false information. Now, another thing that is mind-boggling to me is, let's use Taharka Bey as an example. He found out that he was Moorish through Noble Jew Ali, through Noble Jew Ali's religious texts. So Taharka Bey is a North African Moorish man, but what about the rest of his family? None of them are North Africans, so he's the only North African in his bloodline, but the rest of his family is from West Africa. There's nobody in his family that ever taught him that he was a North African. He learned this stuff through his religion, and that is not how identity works. You cannot be the only person in your bloodline that is a North African and the rest of your family is something else. That is not how things work. Now, you believe that you are descendant of a North African, and that's cool. You can believe what you want, but once again, beliefs cannot be proven. Beliefs are not facts. Beliefs are just that, beliefs.
Yeah, we say descended from. You know, we come from that North African. If you study the slave trade, you'll find out that people come from North Africa by the way of the slave trade. And those who were already here is also bloodline connected to the northwest and southwestern shores of Africa. Yeah, we say descended from. You know, we come from that North African. If you study the slave trade, you'll find out that people come from North Africa by the way of the slave trade.
Now, you heard what he just said. People come from North Africa via the slave trade. Now, I've taken the liberty of putting up my DNA tests from two separate DNA companies. Now, me and Taharka Bey could possibly be family. We come from the same stock of people. So if he took a DNA test, his will be similar to mine. Now, if you look, you see that most of my DNA comes from West Africa. Just like if you read a scholarly book, it tells you that the majority of the slaves that came to the United States came from West Africa, and my DNA test backs that up. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about when he says that the slaves came from North Africa. No, sir. That is what you want because you believe that you are a Moor. Well, if you took a DNA test, your DNA test will look similar to mine, and most of your DNA would come from West Africa. Now, if you also notice something spectacular, I have no North African DNA in me, and Taharka Bey wouldn't have any of that either. Now, the thing that also is just mind-boggling to me about these people, quote-unquote, finding their Moorish heritage through these books is that there are literally thousands of different ethnic groups in Africa. So how would you just single-handedly point out that you're a Moor? You can be any of the other ethnic groups. We got the Wolof, we got the Mandinga, we got the Zulu. There's so many. So for you to just pinpoint and say that you're a Moor, this is just idiotic. And if you took a DNA test, you will be proven wrong. The problem with these Moorish sovereign citizens and these Temple Moors is they don't believe in the white man's science because it isn't, quote unquote, Moorish science. Like, these people are just lost individuals. It is sad.
Now, when you look at when you look at the term Bey, people think that the Bey is Turkish. I see somebody say Turkish in there. Well, the Turkish adopted the term Bey. That comes from North Africa near the area of Libya. That come from when the Moors, if you will, the Moabites, and some say, well, Moabites, they traveled from East Africa, which would be the Levant that they call the Middle East now, and they move towards Northwest Africa, and along their way, they begin to create kingdoms along the way. And one of the kingdoms was the Bayan kingdom, and you can find that in the area of Libya, and that's where the term Bey come from, and it means one who governs. And the Turkish took that title, and they used it within the Ottoman Empire.
Now, this is exactly why I say that whether you're a Moorish sovereign citizen or a temple Moor like Taharka Bey is, you guys are all one and the same. This guy literally just made everything up that he just said. He is 100% incorrect. First and foremost, I've done a lot of reading in my days, a lot of historical readings. I've read a lot of books. I have never heard of a Bayam kingdom. So Taharka Bey, this is a message to you. Please give me a source where I can read about this Bayam kingdom, and I want a scholarly source. I do not want a source where the author's name is Bey or Al, because you guys just make things up. What I would also like to know is, in regards to this Bayam kingdom that you just referred to, who was the leader? Who was the king? What language did they speak? What type of money did they have? What was their culture? Who were they in alliance with? These are all questions that need answers. You can't just throw out some random name of this Bayam kingdom because you are Taharka Bey and you adopted that ideology. I need these questions answered. That's number one. Number two, you're wrong about the title Bey. It was a Turkish title where the Turks went into North Africa and took over. That's where you start seeing that title, where they left their empires, where the people that they conquered. Bey is a governmental title within the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't in North Africa prior to that. So regardless, you guys run around calling yourselves Beys. You guys are not part of the Ottoman Empire. So that title that you give yourselves, Bey, is just false and incorrect. You guys are so historically wrong. It's not even funny. Like, you literally just made everything up that you just said. And the fact that you're on a financial channel, so JT, he's not going to check you on that because he's not there to check you historically. He's there to talk about finances and scams and things of that nature, which is why I'm making this video, because you went unchecked. Now, I want you to source up. Show me where the title Bey was in North Africa before the Ottomans ran into North Africa and took over. Please.
Who governs.
All right, here we go. Next call.
And the L is one who creates. So you got one who creates and one who governs that which is created. So when this Moorish national concept, in particular the right to travel, when our people started to adopt that, and when I say us, I'm not just saying Moors in particular. I'm talking about people that look like us, the same copper tone people, melanated people. When we started to adopt that sovereign citizen doctrine, they didn't know what it was for a long time. So many people would be able to drive off. Many people would be able to talk their way out, and the police officer were looking like, well, okay, you know what I mean? So what happened was, about 10 years ago, they went back and did research, and they was like, hold up, this is kind of crazy. There's tons of court cases on the record and even on the internet that shows that, okay, they were trying to figure it out. Now that the system has figured out what happened, now they address it. They address it in such a way that very few walk away today. Unless you in a small little town of Tupelo, Mississippi, most of the time you ain't walking away today. And if you do, it's only planning to get you at a later time. That's just how it works.
I must say, I 100% agree with you, Taharka Bey. In the early beginnings of the sovereign citizen movement, the cops, all of that lingo was foreign to them. But now the cops are being trained on how to deal with these sovereign citizens, because we now know that all of that stuff is nonsense. So they're treating it accordingly, and these people are going to jail. So it doesn't make sense to adopt the sovereign citizen ideology in 2023.
That's just how it works. And I know that from experienced Moors that threw that stuff in the trash and ultimately joined the temple. Let me add one more thing before you bring in the next caller.
Go ahead.
The oxymoronic part about all of this Moorish national stuff, and it has nothing to do with the temple. The first thing that they say to the police or to the judge, they ask them for a delegation of authority, or they ask them where you get jurisdiction or you don't have jurisdiction.
Right.
Now, if they don't have jurisdiction, why are you filing anything to confirm that you have these rights in the first place? Because you're when you file something, you're trying to get them to rubber stamp it. But why would they rubber stamp if they don't have jurisdiction? That doesn't make no sense whatsoever. So the argument is dead. It's moot. It's a moot argument.
This is how I feel. And we got two more callers that popped up. We'll get to the two, and then that's it. This is what ultimately comes down in my mind. Everyone would love to be special. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice that you can not ever having to deal with the DMV again, never having to pay for registration of your car, not having to pay taxes, being able to get $1 million by turning in your birth certificate? Wouldn't it be nice? Everyone, like, yes, it would be nice. So there's always this little thing in the back of some people's minds that will allow them to lean and be like, I want to hear a little bit more of this, because it would be nice if that would happen. But the reality is it's not. It doesn't work. It's never worked. It will never work. And you're only going to waste time, energy, and have a lot of grief by trying to chase after that thing that's not there. You're just going to waste your time. You're going to wake up one day and be like, man, I lost 8 years of my life dealing with this foolishness.
And that's what happens.
Yeah,
that's what happens. Because I've been in the Moorish Science Temple of America so long, I've seen these cycles of destruction. And some people recover. Some people never recover.
Right. Yeah.
They still believe in it, no matter. Their children get taken, their homes get taken, their vehicles taken. They're never able to drive on the public streets again as a regular, normal, everyday person again. But they still believe. Still believe. Some people never let it go.
And I also agree with what you guys are saying. These people have went so deep down the rabbit hole that they can't let it go. They need this stuff to be true. They don't have jobs. They already done ruined their licenses because they got pulled over and tried all that right to travel crap. So now their license is revoked and they don't have jobs. So they now can't pay the fees to get their licenses back. So instead they just keep fighting and fighting and fighting to try and see if they can get a win with this right to travel crap. And it's just never going to happen. You guys need to wake up and step into reality and just be normal, law-abiding citizens. Because the sovereign citizen ideology is not worth it. You're just wasting time.
Says, respect, brothers. I've heard some Moorish people online denying slavery are saying that it's exaggerated. They say that the numbers don't line up. I'm guessing that this is not official teachings. What say you?
Yep. I've heard some of these Moorish fools saying that same nonsense. These brothers are just so uneducated and lost, it's not even funny. You know what? Let's get into a clip of one of these Moorish idiots talking that nonsense.
Rashid, peace. How's the consciousness? What's good, brother?
What's up?
Ain't nothing.
We ain't Africans. We ain't coming on no slave ship.
Yeah.
And the slave story is grossly misunderstood.
Okay, so
and our people suffer from a lack of knowledge. And anytime the white man is going out of his way, it's Moorish Latin I'm speaking. And anyway, anything that the white boy gets behind and tells you to venerate, right? I'm the European, right? When he tells you that, you put it in snippets, put it on the screen, put it, David McRitchie, Ancient and Modern Britain, I'm the original European. And white is a color. And I'm not a color. I'm not a brother. I don't argue my science.
We're not arguing, black man. I'm just saying you are European, you saying.
And it's called oversimplification. Oversimplification is when people take what's called philosophically microhistory and take bits and pieces of the story and then they begin to weave it. And this is what we're victims of. We're victims of one story. We're victims of one story where some Africans got escorted to a ship and brought over here, and now we don't have no ship records. They got records for everything. They even got the Santa Maria, the Pina, all that sucker shit Colombians was supposed to get on. They got all of them intact. They don't got no slave ship.
The log records.
They don't got no logs or none of that. It's a farce.
Taharka Bey tries to distance himself and other quote-unquote temple Moors from the sovereign citizen Moors. But in actual reality, you guys are all one and the same. Just because you don't partake in their sovereign citizen ideology doesn't mean that those brothers aren't Moors. They are Moors. They wear their fez hats. Their prophet is Noble Drew Ali. They just stepped outside of the religious aspect just like anybody else. There could be sovereign citizens, Christians. We wouldn't run around and say, hey, you're not a Christian because you, in your regular life, you practice sovereign citizen ideology. No, those people are still Christians. And it's the same with these sovereign citizen Moors. They practice a sovereign citizen ideology outside of their quote-unquote Islamism religious beliefs. And it's just that simple. You guys are one and the same. Point blank, period. And Taharka Bey, I would like for you to prove all of that crap that you were saying in the video, because you were dead wrong about the Moorish flag, about the Bayam Empire, and a couple of other things. So if you see this video, you got to show and prove. Give me some scholarly sources that back up the claims that you made.